The alarm blared through the USS Valiant, waking every soldier on board. Lieutenant Jake Morrison jumped out of his bed and grabbed his uniform. He had been in the military for 6 years, but the sound of that alarm still made his heart race. All hands to stations. "We have a distress signal," the speaker announced. Jake ran to the briefing room where Captain Linda Hayes was already waiting. She was a tough woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Around her stood the other members of the squad, including Corporal Amy Brooks, Jake's best friend since training. "Listen up," Captain Hayes said. "We picked up a distress signal from an old mining facility on asteroid J7. The signal is weak, but our computers think it might be from human prisoners." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Human prisoners meant pirates or worse. He looked at Amy, who gave him a worried nod. "Morrison, you'll lead the rescue team," the captain continued. "Take Brooks and 5 others. Get in, find whoever is sending that signal, and get out fast. We don't know what's waiting for you down there." 20 minutes later, Jake and his team were on a small shuttle heading toward the asteroid. Through the window, he could see the dark rock floating in space. On its surface sat an old facility made of metal and concrete. Most of the lights were off. "Looks abandoned," Amy said from the pilot's seat. "Maybe," Jake replied, "but someone sent that signal. Stay sharp, everyone." The shuttle landed near the main entrance. The facility was quiet. Too quiet. Jake led his team inside with their weapons ready. The hallway was dark except for a few emergency lights that flickered on and off. They moved slowly, checking each room. Most were empty. Old mining equipment sat covered in dust. Papers were scattered on the floor. Then Jake heard something. A small sound like someone crying. "Did you hear that?" he whispered to Amy. She nodded. "Coming from down that hall." They followed the sound to a locked door at the end of the corridor. Jake tried to open it, but it wouldn't move. He signaled to one of his men, who came forward with a cutting tool. Sparks flew as they cut through the lock. When the door finally opened, Jake's jaw dropped. Inside the small room sat a creature he had only seen in military briefings. It was a Zarketh, one of the alien species that humanity had been at war with for 3 years. But this wasn't a warrior. This was a child. The young Zarketh looked terrified. She was small, maybe the size of a 12-year-old human girl. Her skin was pale blue with silver markings, and her large eyes were filled with tears. She wore torn clothes, but Jake could see symbols on them. "Royal symbols. Contact, we have contact," one of his men said, raising his weapon. "Wait." Jake held up his hand. "She's just a kid." The child pressed herself against the wall, making frightened noises. She was injured. Her arm hung at a strange angle, and there were cuts on her face. Amy came up beside Jake. "What do we do?" "She's the enemy." "She's a child," Jake said firmly. He slowly lowered his weapon and held out his empty hands. "Hey, it's okay. We won't hurt you." The Zarketh girl didn't understand his words, but maybe she understood his tone. She stopped making noise but kept watching him with those big, scared eyes. Jake took a slow step forward. "My name is Jake," he pointed to himself. "Jake," the girl tilted her head slightly. Jake took another small step. He could see now that she was very thin, like she hadn't eaten properly in a long time. Around her neck hung a pendant with more royal markings. "Brooks, get me some water and a medical kit," Jake said quietly. Amy quickly returned with both. Jake took the water bottle and held it out to the child. She looked at it, then at him, then back at the water. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. She drank so fast that water spilled down her chin. "Easy, easy," Jake said gently. "You're safe now." One of the other soldiers spoke up. "Lieutenant, we should report this. Command needs to know we found a Zarketh, not humans." "I know," Jake replied, but he didn't move. He was thinking about his own little sister, Emma, who had been kidnapped when she was 10. He never found her. He never got to bring her home. The pain of that loss still hurt even after all these years. This child was someone's daughter, someone's sister, and she was alone and afraid in this dark place. Jake opened the medical kit and pulled out bandages. He pointed to the girl's injured arm and then to the bandages. She watched him carefully. When he moved closer, she didn't pull away this time. He gently wrapped her arm, making sure not to hurt her more. "Morrison, what are you doing?" Amy asked. "Helping her," Jake said simply. After he finished with the bandages, Jake looked around the room. There were chains on the wall, empty food containers on the floor. This child had been kept prisoner here. But by who? Zarketh or someone else? The girl suddenly reached out and touched Jake's uniform. She looked at the human military symbol and then up at his face. She made a sound that might have been a question. "Yeah, I'm human," Jake said. "And you're safe now. I promise." Back on the ship, Captain Hayes looked at Jake like he had lost his mind. "You want to bring an enemy alien onto my ship?" she asked. "She's not an enemy. She's a prisoner. Someone kept her locked in that room," Jake explained. "Look at her clothes. Those are royal markings. This might be someone important." The captain walked around the young Zarketh, who sat in the medical bay with Dr. Paul Chen examining her injuries. The girl's eyes followed Jake wherever he moved, like he was the only safe thing in her world. "This could start an incident," Captain Hayes said. "If the Zarketh think we kidnapped one of their children, or it could end the war," Jake interrupted. "If we return her safely to her family." The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Fine, but she's your responsibility, Morrison. You wanted to save her? You take care of her?" "Yes, ma'am," Jake said, unable to hide his relief. Dr. Chen finished his examination. "She's malnourished and dehydrated. That arm is broken but starting to heal wrong. She's been held captive for months at least, maybe longer. I can fix her up, but she needs rest and food." The young Zarketh suddenly spoke. Her voice was small and rough, like she hadn't used it in a long time. Everyone turned to look at her. She pointed at Jake and said something in her language. Then, struggling with the words, she tried to speak in human language. "Mother, Queen, please, home." The room went silent. Jake felt something break inside his chest. This child had been taken from her mother, and her mother was a queen. He knelt down in front of her and put his hand over his heart. Then he pointed to her and nodded. "Yes," he said. "Home. I'll take you home." The girl looked at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time since they found her, she smiled just a little. She reached out and put her small hand in Jake's bigger one. Amy whispered to the captain, "I think we just changed everything." Captain Hayes nodded slowly. "I think you might be right." As the USS Valiant began its journey toward neutral space, Jake sat with the young Zarketh in the medical bay. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know her whole story. But he knew one thing for certain. He was going to get this child back to her mother, no matter what it took. 3 days passed since they found the young Zarketh. Jake spent most of his time in the medical bay with her. Dr. Chen had set her broken arm properly and given her medicine for her wounds. She was getting stronger, but she was still very quiet and scared. The ship's computer had a translation program, but it took time to work. The Zarketh language was complex, and the child spoke differently than the adult warriors the program had learned from. Still, they were starting to understand each other better. Jake learned that her name was Sira. She was the daughter of Empress Varathi, the ruler of the entire Zarketh Empire. Sira had been kidnapped almost 2 years ago during a diplomatic mission. Her mother had been searching for her ever since. "Why would someone take you?" Jake asked through the translation device one morning. Sira looked down at her hands. "Bad Zarketh. They want Mother to give them planets. When she say no, they hide me. Move me many times, rebels," Amy said from the doorway. She had brought breakfast for both Jake and Sira. "Separatists. We've seen their attacks before." Sira nodded sadly. She took the food Amy offered and ate slowly. She still wasn't used to having enough to eat. Jake watched her and felt anger burn in his chest. What kind of people would hurt a child just to get power? He had seen many terrible things in the war, but this was different. This was cruel in a way that made him sick. Commander Greg Walsh, the ship's second-in-command, came to the medical bay later that day. He was a tall man with a serious face. He looked at Sira like she was a problem that needed solving. "Captain wants to see you, Morrison," Walsh said. "We need to discuss what we're going to do with the alien." "Her name is Sira," Jake said firmly. "Whatever her name is, she's a security risk. We're at war with her people." Jake stood up, his jaw tight. "She's a child who was tortured by rebels. She's not a risk. She's a victim." Walsh didn't argue, but his expression showed he didn't agree. Jake followed him to the captain's office, but not before telling Sira he would be back soon. She grabbed his hand, not wanting him to leave. Her eyes were wide with fear. "It's okay," Jake said gently. "Amy will stay with you. I'll be back in a few minutes." Sira slowly let go, though she didn't look happy about it. In the captain's office, a heated discussion was already happening. Captain Hayes sat at her desk while several other officers stood around. "This could be our chance for peace," one officer said. "Or it could be a trap," Walsh argued. What if the Zarketh think we kidnapped her ourselves? We have the facility's records, Jake said. They show rebel forces held her there. We have proof. Captain Hayes looked tired. She had probably been debating this for hours. The question is, what do we do now? We can't just show up at the Zarketh border with their princess. We contact them through neutral channels, suggested Lieutenant Kyle Davis, one of their best pilots. Let them know we found her and want to return her safely. Walsh shook his head. And if they don't believe us? If they think this is some human trick? Then we show them, Sirrah, Jake said. Let her tell them herself. She can explain everything. The room went quiet. Everyone knew it was risky. But everyone also knew that keeping Sirrah was impossible. She needed to go home. Captain Hayes made her decision. We'll send a message through neutral space channels. We'll explain the situation and offer to return her under protected circumstances. Morrison, you'll be responsible for preparing her for the journey. Yes, ma'am, Jake said, relieved. Over the next week, Jake spent even more time with Sirrah. The translation program got better, and they could have real conversations now. Sirrah told him about her home world, about the palace where she grew up, about her mother who ruled millions of Zarketh across many planets. Mother is very strong, Sirrah said one evening. Jake had brought her to his quarters where it was quieter. He was showing her pictures of Earth on his tablet. But she is also kind. She does not like killing. Really? Jake was surprised. Everything he had heard about the Zarketh Empress said she was a fierce warrior. Yes, Sirrah nodded. When war started, Mother captured many humans. Her generals wanted to kill them. But Mother said no. She said killing prisoners is wrong. Many Zarketh were angry with her. Jake thought about this. Your mother sounds like a good person. She is, Sirrah said. Then her eyes filled with tears. I miss her so much. Do you think she still looks for me? I know she does, Jake said. He put his arm around her shoulders. A mother never stops looking for her child. Sirrah leaned against him. You are kind too. Like Mother? Why are humans and Zarketh fighting? It was a simple question, but Jake didn't have a simple answer. The war had started over territory disputes and misunderstandings. Both sides thought the other attacked first. Both sides had lost many people, and now, after 3 years of fighting, no one remembered exactly how to stop. Sometimes, Jake said carefully, people forget that we're all more similar than different. We all have families we love. We all want to protect our homes. I wish there was no war, Sirrah said quietly. Me too, Jake agreed. That night, Jake showed Sirrah a picture he carried in his wallet. It was old and creased. In it, a young girl with blonde hair smiled at the camera. Who is that? Sirrah asked. My little sister, Emma, Jake said. His voice was rough with emotion. She was taken when I was 17. I never found her. Sirrah looked up at him with understanding in her eyes. That is why you helped me. You wanted to save your sister. Jake nodded, unable to speak for a moment. I couldn't save Emma, but I can save you. Sirrah reached out and hugged him tightly. You are good brother. Good friend. Thank you. A few days later, the ship received a response to their message. Captain Hayes called Jake to the bridge immediately. They answered, she said, pulling up the message on the main screen. The message was from the Zarketh Empire itself. The Empress had issued a galaxy-wide proclamation. She promised safe passage and a reward to anyone who returned her daughter unharmed. She swore on her honor that no harm would come to those who helped Sirrah. She's been searching this whole time, Amy said, reading the details. Look, there are search parties in every system. She never gave up. Jake felt his throat tighten. This mother had been looking for her child for 2 years. 2 years of not knowing if her daughter was alive or dead. 2 years of hoping and praying. I want to take her home personally, Jake said to the captain. Captain Hayes looked at him. That's dangerous, Morrison. You'd be going into Zarketh space. Enemy territory. With respect, ma'am, they're not the enemy right now. They're a mother looking for her child. The captain studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right. We'll arrange for a diplomatic shuttle. You, Brooks, and Ambassador Helen Wright from the Diplomatic Corps will escort Sirrah home. When Jake told Sirrah the news, she jumped up and down with excitement. Then she grabbed both his hands. You will come with me? All the way home, Jake promised. Will you meet my mother? If she wants to meet me, yes. Sirrah smiled the biggest smile Jake had seen from her yet. She will like you. I will tell her you saved me. I will tell her humans are not all bad. Maybe war can stop. Jake hoped she was right, but he knew it wouldn't be that simple. Wars didn't end because one soldier saved one child, but maybe, just maybe, it could be a start. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what was ahead. They would be traveling through neutral space and then into Zarketh territory. There would be dangers. Pirates who wanted the reward money, rebels who wanted to capture Sira again, and the Zarketh themselves who might not believe their story. But when he looked at Sira sleeping peacefully in the medical bay, finally feeling safe enough to rest, he knew it would be worth it. Every risk, every danger, she deserved to go home. Amy found him in the hallway outside the medical bay. "You know this is crazy, right?" she said. "Yeah," Jake admitted. "We could die doing this." "I know." Amy was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "Good thing I'm coming with you then. Someone needs to keep you out of trouble." Jake laughed softly. "Thanks, Amy. That's what friends are for," she said. Then she got serious. "Do you really think we can pull this off?" Jake looked through the window at Sira. "We have to. She's been through too much already. She deserves to see her mother again." The next morning, they began preparing for the journey. The diplomatic shuttle was small but fast. It could make the trip in about a week if everything went smoothly. Ambassador Wright arrived with documents and protocols. She was a professional woman who believed in peace but wasn't naive about the dangers. Sira helped pack supplies, excited to be doing something useful. She had grown stronger over the past weeks. The wounds on her body were healing, but Jake knew the wounds in her heart would take longer. On their last night aboard the USS Valiant, Captain Hayes held a small ceremony. She presented Jake with a medal for heroism and compassion. "What you're doing," she said, "represents the best of what humanity can be. Not our weapons, not our tactics, but our heart." Jake felt embarrassed by the attention, but Sira clapped her hands together happily. She had learned human gestures and was using them now. As they boarded the shuttle the next morning, Jake took one last look at the USS Valiant. It had been his home for years. Now he was leaving it to take a child back to her mother, to potentially change the course of a war. Amy started the engines. Ambassador Wright checked their route. And Sira sat in the back seat, holding a stuffed animal that one of the crew had given her. "Ready?" Amy asked. Jake buckled his seatbelt and nodded. "Let's bring her home." The first 2 days of travel were quiet. The diplomatic shuttle moved through empty space, following routes that traders and peaceful travelers used. Jake spent the time teaching Sira more human words, and she taught him words in her language. "What is your mother like?" Jake asked one afternoon. They sat together in the back of the shuttle while Amy flew and Ambassador Wright worked on her reports. Sira thought for a moment. "She is tall, very tall. She has marks here." Sira touched her own arms. "That show she is royal. She is strong warrior, but with me she is soft. She reads me stories. She sings songs. She sings." Jake smiled. He had trouble imagining the fearsome Zarketh Empress singing lullabies. "Yes." Sira's eyes lit up. "Songs about stars and ancient heroes. I miss her voice." Then her face fell. "I wonder if she is angry with me." "Angry? Why would she be angry? I was taken because I did not listen. She told me to stay close to guards. But I walked away to see pretty flowers. That is when bad Zarketh grabbed me." Jake pulled her close. "Sira, none of this is your fault. You were just a kid doing what kids do. Your mother won't be angry. She'll just be happy to have you back." Sira hugged him tight. "You are like father to me now. Will you be sad when I go home?" Jake's chest hurt. "I'll miss you very much, but I'll be happy because you'll be where you belong. Can you visit after I am home?" "Maybe," Jake said, though he didn't know if that would be possible. Humans and Zarketh didn't visit each other. They fought wars. On the third day, trouble found them. The shuttle's alarm started beeping. Amy cursed and pulled up the scanner. 3 ships coming in fast," she said. "They're not broadcasting friendly signals." Ambassador Wright grabbed the communications panel. "This is diplomatic vessel Alpha 7 on a peaceful mission. Please identify yourselves." The response came in a rough voice. "We know who you are. We know what you carry. Hand over the Zarketh child and we'll let you live. Pirates. Or mercenaries. People who wanted the reward money but didn't care about doing things the right way." Jake quickly moved Sira to a protected corner. "Stay down and don't move," he told her. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. But we'll protect you. I promise." The pirates' ships got closer. They were old fighters, probably stolen from military surplus. Not as good as military ships, but still dangerous. We need to jump to light speed, Ambassador Wright said. Can't, Amy replied. They're jamming our systems. We have to fight our way out. Jake strapped into the gunner's seat. The shuttle had 2 small weapons, nothing impressive, but maybe enough. I'm ready. The first pirate ship came in shooting. Amy dodged, her flying skills excellent. The shuttle spun and twisted through space. Jake fired back, hitting one of the pirate ships on its wing. It spun away, damaged but not destroyed. 2 more coming, Amy shouted. Laser fire hit their shields. The shuttle shook. Sarah cried out in fear, covering her head with her arms. Jake fired again and again. He hit the second ship, causing it to explode in a burst of light. But the third ship was smarter. It came from below where their guns couldn't reach easily. Hold on, Amy yelled. She did a move Jake had never seen before, flipping the shuttle upside down. His stomach flipped with it. But now he had a clear shot at the third ship. He took it. The blast hit the pirate ship directly in its engine. It went dark and started drifting. Got them, Jake shouted. But the first ship, the damaged one, wasn't done. It came back around, firing everything it had. The shuttle's shields couldn't take it. The lights flickered. Smoke filled the cabin. Shields down, Amy said. We have to land now. She aimed for a nearby trading station that showed up on their scanners. It was neutral ground, a place where different species met to trade and do business. The shuttle limped toward it, trailing smoke. They landed hard in the station's docking bay. Emergency crews ran toward them with fire equipment. Jake grabbed Sierra and carried her out of the shuttle. She clung to him, crying. It's okay, we're safe now, he said, though he wasn't completely sure that was true. Ambassador Wright was on her communication device immediately. We need repairs and protection. This is a diplomatic emergency. The station manager came running over. He was a Vendari, a species that looked like walking trees. What happened? Pirates attacked us, Amy explained. Our shuttle is damaged. We need to fix it fast. The manager looked at Sierra and his eyes went wide. He recognized her species. Is that a Zarketh child here? We're returning her to her family, Jake said. Can you help us or not? The manager thought for a moment. Then he nodded. Come quickly, we will hide you while we repair your ship. Pirates have friends. They might come to the station. He led them through the busy station. Hundreds of different aliens walked around, buying and selling things, eating at restaurants, or just traveling through. Jake kept Sierra's face hidden against his chest. The last thing they needed was for someone else to recognize her. They reached a small room near the back of the station. It was simple but safe, with beds and a bathroom. The manager locked the door behind them. Stay here. I will have my best workers fix your shuttle. It will take maybe 6 hours. Thank you, Ambassador Wright said. After the manager left, they all let out a long breath. That had been too close. Sierra finally stopped crying. Those people wanted to hurt me. They wanted to take you, Jake corrected gently. But we didn't let them. Will there be more? Maybe, Jake said honestly. But we'll be ready. Amy checked her weapons, making sure they still worked. We need to be more careful. Word is spreading that we have her. The rebels probably told people, Ambassador Wright said. They don't want her to get home. Jake sat with Sierra on one of the beds. Why don't you rest? It's been a scary day, but Sierra shook her head. I want to help. Teach me to use weapon. I want to fight too. You're too young, Jake said automatically. I am Zarketh, Sierra said proudly. We learn to fight young. Please, Jake, I do not want to be helpless. Jake looked at Amy, who shrugged. She has a point. And if something happens to us, she should know how to protect herself. So Jake spent the next hour showing Sierra basic self-defense. Not how to shoot a gun, she was too small for that. But how to break a hold, how to run, where to hide. Sierra learned quickly. Her people were natural fighters, even the young ones. While they practiced, Ambassador Wright worked on sending a message to the Zarketh Empire. She wanted them to know about the pirates and the danger Sierra was still in. Maybe they could send protection. A few hours later, something unexpected happened. There was a knock on the door. Everyone went still. Jake pushed Sierra behind him and Amy raised her weapon. Who is it? Jake called out. My name is Ren. I am a trader here. I want to help. They opened the door carefully. Outside stood a Zelkon, a species known for being merchants and travelers. He was short and round with kind eyes. How do you know we need help? Jake asked suspiciously. Ren looked nervous. Everyone knows. Word spreads fast in station. You have the Zarketh princess. You are taking her home. And you want the reward money, Amy said coldly. No, Ren said quickly. I have children. 5 children. When I heard there was a child trying to get home to her mother, He stopped, his voice breaking. I had to help. Please let me help. Jake studied him. His instinct said this person was telling the truth. What kind of help? I have a ship. Faster than yours, less damaged. I can take you through routes pirates do not know. Safe routes? Ambassador Wright frowned. Why would you risk that? Because it is right thing to do, Ren said simply. And because maybe if Zarketh Princess goes home safe, there can be peace. My children are tired of war. Everyone is tired of war. Jake looked at Syra. She looked back at him and nodded. She trusted his judgment. Okay, Jake decided. We'll accept your help. But if this is a trick... No trick, Ren said quickly. I promise on my children's lives. Come, we leave in 1 hour, before pirates' friends arrive. They gathered their things quickly. Syra held Jake's hand tightly as they moved through the station to where Ren's ship waited. It was a trading vessel, bigger than their shuttle but not as fancy. Is safe, Ren assured them. Very fast. Has good shields. As they loaded onto the new ship, other station residents watched. Some were aliens Jake had never seen before, but they all had one thing in common. They all looked at Syra with sympathy and hope. One old alien woman, her species unknown to Jake, approached them. She pressed something into Syra's hand. It was a small carved flower. For you, little one, the woman said in broken human language. For good luck. Go home safe. Syra's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. More people came forward. They gave small gifts. Food, toys, lucky charms, things from their own cultures meant to protect travelers. Jake realized these people understood what they were doing. A child going home to her mother. It was something that crossed all species, all languages. When they finally took off, Syra sat looking at all the gifts people had given her. They were kind, she said softly. All different aliens, but all kind. Yes, Jake agreed. Most beings in the universe are good. They care about families. They care about children. Then why war? Syra asked the question that had no easy answer. Because, Jake said slowly, sometimes good people forget that the other side is also good people. They see enemies instead of families. Syra thought about this. When I see Mother, I will tell her. Humans are good. These other aliens are good. We should not fight. Do you think she'll listen? Amy asked. Yes, Syra said with certainty. Mother always listens to me. Ren's ship was indeed fast. They made good time, avoiding the main travel routes where pirates might wait. Each day brought them closer to Zarketh space. At night, Syra would ask Jake to tell her stories about Earth. He told her about oceans and mountains, about cities with millions of people, about his hometown where his parents still lived. Will I meet your parents? Syra asked one night. Maybe someday, Jake said. I think they'd like you. My mom always wanted more children. I would like to meet them. They made good son. Jake felt his eyes sting with tears. This little alien girl had somehow become important to him. More than just a mission. More than just someone to rescue. She felt like family. On the 7th day, their scanners picked up something big. Ren checked his instruments and his eyes went wide. Zarketh fleet, he said. Very big fleet. They had reached the border of Zarketh space, and Empress Varathi's ships were waiting for them. The Zarketh fleet was massive. Jake counted at least 50 warships surrounding them in a perfect circle. Each ship was 3 times the size of any human military vessel. Their weapons were powered up, ready to fire. This is trader ship Ren 7 carrying diplomatic passengers. Ren spoke into his communication system. His voice shook slightly. We are here to return Princess Syra to Empress Varathi. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Then a voice came through, speaking in Zarketh language. Syra's face lit up. They say Mother is here. On the big ship. She pointed to the largest vessel in the center of the fleet. They want us to come there. Are you sure it's safe? Amy whispered to Jake. Jake looked at Syra's excited face. We've come this far. We have to trust them. Ambassador Wright straightened her uniform. We represent humanity in this moment. Let's show them our best. Ren carefully piloted his ship toward the flagship. As they got closer, Jake could see how beautiful and terrifying the Zarketh ship was. It was covered in silver metal that seemed to glow. Weapons lined every surface. This was a ship built for war, but also for showing power. They landed in a huge docking bay. The doors opened and Jake could see hundreds of Zarketh warriors waiting. They were tall, much taller than humans, with blue skin covered in silver markings. Each one carried weapons and wore armor that looked ancient but deadly. "I am scared," Syra admitted, squeezing Jake's hand. "Why? These are your people. I have been gone so long. What if they do not remember me? What if Mother is different now?" Jake knelt down to her level. "Your mother has been searching for you for 2 years. She never stopped. She never gave up. That's not someone who stopped caring." Syra nodded and took a deep breath. "You will stay with me?" "Every step," Jake promised. They walked down the boarding ramp together. Jake carried Syra in his arms because she was still too weak to walk far. The Zarketh warriors stared at them. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. But many looked at Syra with soft eyes, like they were seeing something precious. A tall Zarketh warrior stepped forward. His armor was more decorated than the others. "I am General Kothron, commander of the Imperial Guard. The Empress is waiting in the throne room." His voice was deep and scary, but his eyes kept going to Syra with something like relief. "How do we know this is not a trick?" Another Zarketh spoke up. "This one wore robes instead of armor. How do we know these humans did not take the princess themselves?" "We have proof," Ambassador Wright said calmly. She pulled out a data device. "The facility where we found her, the rebel communications we intercepted, the medical records showing her injuries from long captivity. We offer all of this freely." The robed Zarketh, who Syra whispered was the High Advisor Merval, looked suspicious. But General Kothron waved them forward. "The Empress will decide," he said. They walked through the ship's corridors. Everything was huge and grand. The ceilings were so high Jake felt tiny. They passed more warriors who stopped and stared. Word was spreading fast. The lost princess had returned. Finally, they reached 2 massive doors decorated with gold and silver. Guards pulled them open and Jake's breath caught. The throne room was enormous. Thousands of Zarketh filled it, nobles and warriors and officials. They stood in perfect rows on either side of a long walkway. At the end of the walkway, sitting on a throne made of dark metal and crystal, sat Empress Varathi. She was the most impressive being Jake had ever seen. Even sitting, she was clearly very tall. Her skin was darker blue than Syra's, and her silver markings covered her entire body in complex patterns. She wore armor that looked like art and a crown that seemed to be made of light itself. Her face was beautiful but hard, carved by years of ruling and fighting, but it was her eyes that caught Jake. They were the same color as Syra's, and they were filled with hope and fear and love so strong it was almost painful to see. "Approach," General Kothron said quietly. Jake carried Syra down the long walkway. Every eye in the room was on them. The only sound was their footsteps echoing on the stone floor. Jake felt like he could barely breathe. This was a moment that would change everything. They stopped a few feet from the throne. Jake gently set Syra on her feet. The little girl looked up at her mother, tears already running down her face. Empress Varathi leaned forward, her hands gripping the arms of her throne so hard, Jake heard the metal creak. Her eyes scanned every inch of her daughter, seeing the scars, the thinness, the changes that 2 years had made. "Syra," the Empress's voice broke on the name. "Mother," Syra whispered, then louder, her voice filled with joy and pain and relief. "Mother, I am back. He rescued me." The throne room, filled with thousands of warriors and nobles, fell completely silent. The Empress, known throughout the galaxy as the Iron Monarch, the unbreakable warrior, the conqueror of stars, stood up from her throne. And then she ran. She didn't walk with dignity or move with royal grace. She ran like any mother who had been separated from her child. Her crown fell off and clattered on the floor, but she didn't stop. She ran down the steps of her throne and dropped to her knees in front of her daughter. "My baby," she sobbed, pulling Syra into her arms. "My baby, my baby, my baby." Syra buried her face in her mother's chest and cried. Not scared crying like Jake had heard in the facility. This was relief and joy and love. The Empress held her daughter like she would never let go again, rocking her back and forth. Jake felt tears running down his own face. Amy was crying too. Even tough Ambassador Wright wiped her eyes. The entire court watched their empress show emotion they had probably never seen before. And slowly, other Zarketh began to cry too. Warriors who had fought in 100 battles. Nobles who prided themselves on being strong, all of them moved by a mother's love for her child. I looked everywhere, Varathi said, her voice breaking. Every star, every planet. I never stopped. I never gave up. I know, Mother, I know. I am sorry I walked away from the guards. I am sorry. No. Varathi pulled back to look at her daughter's face. No, you did nothing wrong, nothing. You are here now. You are safe. That is all that matters. They held each other for a long time. Finally, Varathi seemed to remember they weren't alone. She stood, pulling Sira up with her, still holding her close. Her eyes found Jake. You, she said. You are the human who found my daughter? Jake stood at attention. Yes, Your Majesty. Lieutenant Jake Morrison. The Empress walked toward him slowly. She was so tall that even standing straight, Jake had to look up at her. Up close, he could see that her face was wet with tears. She looked at him for a long moment, studying every part of him. My daughter has been telling me about you through our mental link, she said. She says you saved her, protected her, treated her with kindness when you could have left her to die. She's a child, Jake said simply. Any decent person would have done the same. But you are at war with my people. You could have used her as a hostage. You could have demanded payment. You could have done many things. Instead, you brought her home. Varathi turned to face her court. This human could have left my daughter in that facility. His people and mine are enemies. But he risked everything to bring her back to me. What does this say about humans? The High Advisor Merval stepped forward. Your Majesty, we must be careful. This could still be a trick. Humans are clever. Enough! Varathi's voice thundered through the throne room. My daughter is here. She is alive. She tells me this human treated her like his own family. I will not hear accusations against someone who showed such honor. She turned back to Jake. In our culture, there is a ceremony. When someone saves a member of the royal family, they become kinsworn. They are adopted into our family as a protector. She placed her hand on Jake's shoulder. Her hand was so big it covered his entire shoulder. Jake Morrison, human warrior, I name you kinsworn to the House of Varathi. You are now family to me and to my daughter. You will have the protection of the Empire and a place in my home for as long as you live. The entire court made a sound together, like a gasp. This was clearly a very big honor. Your Majesty, Jake said, his voice rough with emotion. I don't deserve— You do, she interrupted. You gave me back my daughter when you could have used her for your own gain. You showed mercy and compassion. These are the highest virtues of my people, though we have forgotten them in this war. She looked around the throne room at all her people. For years we have fought humans. We have called them savage, violent, without honor. But this human showed more honor than many in this room. He showed me that perhaps we have been wrong. High Advisor Merval looked unhappy. Your Majesty, you cannot mean to suggest peace with humanity because of one soldier. Why not? Varathi demanded. We started this war because we believed humans were violent barbarians who would destroy everything in their path. But if they are capable of such kindness, such compassion, perhaps we never understood them at all. Sira spoke up then, her voice small but clear. Mother, while I was with Jake and his friends, I learned about humans. They value family above everything. They protect children, even children of their enemies. They are not monsters. They are people like us. Varathi pulled her daughter close again. Then perhaps it is time to end this war. Perhaps it is time to learn if we can be friends instead of enemies. The throne room erupted in noise. Some Zarketh cheered, others argued. It was chaos until Varathi raised her hand for silence. I will not decide this alone, she said, but I will send a message to the human government. I will propose peace talks based on the honor shown by Lieutenant Morrison and his crew. If one human can show such compassion, perhaps all humans can. She looked at Jake again. You changed everything by saving one child. Do you understand that? Jake looked at Sira, who smiled at him with complete trust and love. I just wanted to get her home to her mother, he said. That's all. That is enough, Varathi said softly. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes. General Kothran stepped forward and bowed to Jake, something that clearly surprised everyone. You have shown the heart of a true warrior. I apologize for doubting humans. Other Zarketh began to approach, wanting to meet the human who brought their princess home. But Sira pushed through them all and grabbed Jake's hand. "Don't leave yet," she said. "Please stay for a while. I want Mother to know you better." Jake looked at Captain Hayes through his communication device, asking for permission. She smiled and nodded. "Stay as long as you need, Morrison. You've earned it." As the throne room slowly cleared and celebrations began throughout the ship, Varathi led Jake and her daughter to a private chamber. There, without the crown and the formality, she was just a mother who had her child back. "Thank you," she said to Jake, her voice breaking again. "Thank you for bringing her home. Thank you for treating her with kindness. Thank you for being the bridge between our peoples." "Your Majesty," Jake said, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When this war started, why didn't you try to talk first?" Varathi was quiet for a moment. "Pride," she finally said. "Fear. We thought we knew what humans were." "We were wrong." She pulled Sira closer. "But I will not make that mistake again." That night, as celebrations filled the Zarketh flagship, Jake stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. Sira found him there. "Are you happy?" she asked. "Yes," Jake said. "You're home. That's all I wanted." "But now what happens?" Sira asked. "Will you go back to your ship? Will I never see you again?" Jake knelt down and hugged her. "I don't know what happens next, but I promise no matter what, you'll always be special to me. You'll always be family." Sira hugged him back tightly. "You saved my life. But more than that, you might have saved our whole worlds from fighting. Mother is serious about peace now. She wants it." "Because of you," Jake said. "Because of you," Sira corrected. "You showed us humans have hearts." As they stood together looking at the stars, neither of them knew that the war was far from over. Neither of them knew the dangers still to come. But in that moment, they had done something impossible. They had built a bridge between two species who thought they were enemies forever. And it had all started with one simple choice: to save a lost child and bring her home. 3 days after the reunion, Jake was teaching Sira how to play a human card game when the alarm started screaming. The peaceful atmosphere on the flagship shattered instantly. Warriors ran to their stations. Weapons powered up. Something was very wrong. General Kothron burst into the room where they sat with Empress Varathi. "Your Majesty, we have incoming ships. Many of them." "The separatist rebels, how many?" Varathi asked, already standing. "At least 40 warships. They're heading straight for the palace. The palace. They weren't on the flagship anymore." The day before, Varathi had brought them to the throne world Krathaz, to her actual palace where she ruled from. It was a beautiful place built into the side of a mountain, with gardens and tall towers. "They know," Varathi said quietly. "They know Sira is home. They know we're talking about peace with the humans." High Advisor Merval appeared, looking scared. "Your Majesty, we must get you and the princess to safety." "No," Varathi said firmly. "I will not hide in my own home. We will fight." "Mother," Sira started. "You will go to the safe room," Varathi said to her daughter, "with your guards and with Jake." "I can fight," Jake said. "I'm a soldier." "Let me help." Varathi looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You are kinsworn. You have every right to defend this house." She called to her guards. "Get my daughter to safety. Morrison stays with me." As guards started to lead Sira away, she pulled free and ran to Jake. "Please don't die," she begged. Jake hugged her tight. "I won't, I promise. Now go. Let the adults handle this." Amy appeared then, having been exploring the palace with Ambassador Wright. "Jake, the USS Valiant just arrived in orbit. Captain Hayes brought the whole fleet. We're here to help." "Good," Jake said. "We're going to need everyone." Within minutes, the palace transformed into a fortress. Zarketh warriors took positions on the walls and towers. Human soldiers from the USS Valiant landed in shuttles and joined them. It was the first time in 3 years that humans and Zarketh had fought on the same side. Jake found himself standing next to General Kothron on the main wall. The general looked at him and did something unexpected. He smiled. "Never thought I would fight beside a human," he said. "Never thought I would fight beside a Zarketh." Jake replied. "Let us show these rebels what happens when warriors of honor stand together," Kothron said. The first rebel ships appeared in the sky. They were smaller than the Imperial fleet, but there were so many of them. They started firing on the palace immediately. Energy weapons lit up the sky. Explosions rocked the ground. The USS Valiant and other human ships engaged the rebels in space. Captain Hayes's voice came through Jake's communication device. "We're taking heavy fire up here. How are things on the ground?" "About to get bad," Jake said as he watched rebel soldiers dropping from transport ships. "They're landing ground forces. We'll handle the sky. You handle the ground. And Morrison, don't you dare die. I didn't come all this way to lose you." "Yes, ma'am," Jake said with a slight smile. The rebel forces hit the palace walls like a wave. There were hundreds of them, all armed, all angry. They shouted things about the Empress being weak, about humans being poison, about the old ways being better. Jake and the defenders fought back. Human weapons and Zarketh weapons firing side by side. Jake had learned to work with the Zarketh warriors over the past few days. They were different, but not that different. They wanted to protect their home just like humans did. Amy fought next to him, her aim perfect as always. "This is crazy," she shouted over the noise. "Yeah," Jake agreed, firing at rebels trying to climb the wall. "But at least we're all crazy together." For hours they held the walls. Human and Zarketh soldiers shared ammunition, covered each other, saved each other's lives. The rebels kept coming, but the defenders didn't break. Then something worse happened. A loud explosion came from inside the palace. The rebels had gotten through somehow. They were inside, heading for where Syrah was hidden. "No!" Jake ran from the wall, leaving Amy in charge. General Cothran followed him. "The safe room is this way," the general said, leading Jake through corridors filled with smoke and chaos. They found rebel soldiers fighting with the guards protecting Syrah's room. Jake didn't hesitate. He fired, taking down 2 rebels. Cothran charged forward, his strength incredible, throwing rebels away from the door. But more kept coming. Too many. Jake's weapon ran out of ammunition. A rebel soldier raised his gun at Jake, ready to fire. Then the door to the safe room opened. Syrah stood there, holding a small weapon. She fired it, hitting the rebel who threatened Jake. The rebel fell. "I said I wanted to help," Syrah yelled. "Get back inside." Jake and Varathi shouted at the same time. The Empress had also arrived, fighting her way through rebels to reach her daughter. But Syrah didn't listen. She had been locked in a room, scared and helpless, for 2 years. She wasn't going to be helpless anymore. She fought alongside her mother and Jake, protecting her home. The battle inside the palace was fierce. But seeing their princess fight, seeing her defend her home with a human beside her and her mother beside her, inspired the Zarketh guards. They fought harder. They pushed the rebels back. Outside, the tide was turning too. Captain Hayes and the human fleet had destroyed most of the rebel ships. The rebels on the ground, seeing their air support gone, began to retreat. By sunset, it was over. The rebels were defeated or captured. The palace was damaged but standing. And most importantly, everyone Jake cared about was alive. The cost was high, though. Jake stood in the palace courtyard looking at the bodies. Human soldiers who would never go home. Zarketh warriors who had given their lives defending their empress. They had fought together and they had died together. Varathi organized a ceremony that night. Human and Zarketh dead were honored side by side. There was no separation, no us and them. They were all warriors who had fought for peace. Captain Hayes attended the ceremony. She stood next to Varathi, and the 2 leaders spoke quietly. "Your soldiers fought with honor," Varathi said. "Yours did too," Hayes replied. "Maybe this is how it should always have been." "Yes," Varathi agreed. "Perhaps it is time to end this war officially." The next day, representatives from both governments arrived. There were formal talks, treaties, documents. But Jake knew the real peace had already been made. It had been made on the palace walls, where humans and Zarketh had fought together. It had been made in the shared grief for those who had fallen. 2 weeks later, Varathi made an official announcement. The Zarketh Empire and humanity would end the war. There would be peace talks, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. Borders would be redrawn fairly. Prisoners would be released. And it had all started because one human soldier had saved one Zarketh child. Jake stood in the palace gardens with Syrah. She was healthier now, stronger. The scared little girl he had found in that dark room was becoming confident again. "What will you do now?" she asked him. "I don't know," Jake admitted. "The war is ending. I guess I'll go back to Earth eventually. But you will visit?" Syrah asked hopefully. "Of course. Your mother made me kinsworn, remember? That means I'm family. Families visit each other." Syrah smiled. "Good, because I want to learn more about humans. I want to help make sure our peoples stay friends." Ambassador Wright approached them. "Lieutenant Morrison?" I have a message from our government. They want to offer you a position as a permanent ambassador to the Zarketh Empire. Jake was surprised. Me? I'm just a soldier. You're the human who saved the princess and helped end a war, Wright said. You're also someone both species trust. That's rare and valuable. Jake looked at Sira, who was practically jumping with excitement. Does this mean you will stay here more? She asked. It means I'll be traveling between Earth and Krathaz, Jake said. Building bridges between our peoples. Perfect. Sira grabbed his hand. You can teach me more about Earth, and I can teach you more about being Zarketh. Varathi joined them in the garden. She looked different now. Still powerful, still regal, but softer somehow, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. I want to thank you again, she said to Jake. Not just for returning my daughter, but for showing me that peace was possible. I had forgotten how to see other species as people instead of enemies. Your Majesty, Jake said, I just did what was right, what any decent person would do. But that is the point, Varathi said. What is right should not be rare or special. It should be normal. You reminded me of that. She looked at her daughter, who was showing Jake a flower from the garden. Sira wants to create an organization, a group that helps reunite families separated by war. Humans, Zarketh, any species. She wants to make sure no child stays lost like she was. That's a wonderful idea, Jake said. She wants you to help her, Varathi continued. Will you? Jake felt his chest swell with emotion. It would be an honor. 1 year later, Jake stood in the same garden. But everything had changed. Where there had once been only Zarketh guards, now there were humans too working together. The palace had become a place where both species came to meet and learn about each other. Sira ran up to him excited. She was taller now, growing fast. Jake! The first joint colony is ready. The one where humans and Zarketh will live together. That's amazing, Jake said, smiling at her enthusiasm. Mother says we can go visit it. All 3 of us. Will you come? Jake looked up and saw Varathi approaching. The Empress had become a friend over the past year. They had worked together, planned together, even argued sometimes, but always with respect. A family trip? Jake asked. Is that not what we are? Varathi said. You are kinsworn. You are family. Sira grabbed both their hands. Come on, we have to see it. It is going to show everyone that peace is possible. As they walked together through the palace, Jake thought about how much had changed. A year ago, he had been a soldier in a war that seemed endless. Now he was a bridge between 2 species, helping build something new. Amy joined them, along with several other humans and Zarketh who had become friends over the past year. They all boarded a transport ship together, heading for the new colony. During the flight, Sira sat between Jake and her mother, looking at maps of the colony on a tablet. Look, there will be human-style houses and Zarketh-style houses, and some houses that are both styles mixed together. It's beautiful, Jake said. It is hope, Varathi corrected. Hope that our children will grow up knowing each other as friends, not enemies. When they arrived at the colony, hundreds of people were waiting. Humans and Zarketh who had volunteered to be the first to live together. They cheered when they saw the Empress and her daughter. They cheered for Jake too, recognizing him from the stories that had spread across both civilizations. The story of the human who saved the princess. The story that changed everything. Sira gave a speech, her voice clear and strong. She talked about being lost and scared, about being found and saved. She talked about how one act of kindness had grown into peace between 2 peoples. Jake showed me that humans have good hearts, she said. He showed my mother that peace was possible. And now all of you are showing the galaxy that different species can live together, work together, be friends together. The crowd cheered, human and Zarketh voices mixing together. After the ceremony, Jake found a quiet spot to sit and watch the colony being built. Varathi sat next to him. Do you ever think about how different things would be if you had left her there? The Empress asked. Sometimes, Jake admitted. But I couldn't leave her. She was a child who needed help. That simple decision changed the fate of billions, Varathi said. It ended a war. It saved countless lives. It built bridges between our species. I just wanted to get her home to her mom, Jake said. Varathi smiled. Yes, and that is why it worked. You did not do it for glory or reward. You did it because it was right. Sira ran over to them, pulling them both up. Come on. They want us to plant the first tree in the colony gardens. a human tree and a Zarketh tree side by side. As the three of them walked to the garden, surrounded by humans and Zarketh working together, laughing together, building a future together, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, genuine hope that things could be better, that peace was possible, that different peoples could find common ground. They planted the trees together. A human oak and a Zarketh silverbark, their roots touching underground, their branches reaching toward the same sky. These trees will grow together, Sira said, just like our peoples are growing together. That night, under the stars of the new colony, Jake sat with his adopted family. Farathi on one side, Sira on the other, Amy and other friends nearby. I have been thinking, Sira said suddenly. There are probably other children out there lost, scared like I was. Probably, Jake agreed sadly. Then we must find them, Sira said with determination. All of them. We must bring them home like you brought me home. That's a big job, Jake said. But important job, Sira insisted. She looked up at him with those eyes so much like her mother's. Will you help me? Will you help bring more families back together? Jake looked at this brave young girl who had survived so much. He looked at Varathi, who had chosen peace over pride. He looked at the colony around them, proof that different species could build something beautiful together. Yes, he said. Yes, I will help you. Sira hugged him tight.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for finding me. Thank you for bringing me home. Thank you for showing us all that love is stronger than hate. As they sat together under the alien stars, Jake thought about his journey. It had started with a distress signal on a distant asteroid. It had led him to save one lost child, and that one act of compassion had changed the entire galaxy. He thought about his sister Emma, who he had never found. The pain of that loss would always be with him. But maybe by helping other lost children find their way home, he could honor her memory. He could make sure other families didn't suffer the way his had. What are you thinking about? Varathi asked quietly. The future, Jake said, and how sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can create the biggest changes. Sira yawned and leaned against him, getting sleepy. Tell me a story, she asked. About Earth. So Jake told her stories about his home world as the stars wheeled overhead. Stories about oceans and mountains, about cities and forests, about people who were different, but who all wanted the same things. Love, family, peace, home. And as he talked, he realized something. He had two homes now. Earth, where he was born, and here with this family he had found among the stars. Sometimes the best families aren't the ones you're born into. Sometimes they're the ones you choose, the ones you save, the ones who save you in return. Sira fell asleep holding his hand safe and loved. Varathi smiled at them both. This strange little family that had formed from war and loss and kindness. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities. There would be challenges still. Peace wasn't perfect. There would be people on both sides who resisted change. But they had proven something important. They had proven that compassion was stronger than hate. That one person's choice to do the right thing could change everything. That family was more than blood or species. It was love and loyalty and the choice to stand together. As the first sun began to rise over the new colony, painting the sky in colors both humans and Zarketh found beautiful, Jake made a silent promise. He would spend the rest of his life helping build this peace. He would help Sierra find other lost children and bring them home. He would be a bridge between species, showing through his own life that different peoples could be family. It had all started with a simple decision in a dark facility on a forgotten asteroid. The decision to save a child who needed help. And that decision had saved the galaxy. Because sometimes that's all it takes to change the world. One person choosing kindness. One person refusing to walk away. One person saying, I will help you get home. And sometimes the lost child you save becomes the daughter you never knew you needed. The family you choose becomes more important than the family you were born into. And the simple act of bringing a little girl back to her mother becomes the foundation of peace between civilizations. Jake looked at Sira sleeping peacefully, no longer the scared child in that dark room, but a brave young woman who wanted to help others. He looked at Varathi, no longer just a fearsome empress but a friend and family. And he knew without any doubt that he would do it all again. Every dangerous moment, every scary choice, every risk, because some things are worth fighting for, And bringing a child home to her mother is one of them. Always.